Let me tell you, this house is literally glowing from miles away. If the sun wasn't shining, you wouldn't, people would see it. Anyway, so what's interesting as we look at this is to be able to stop and think. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to feed. I always get a kick out of that. People go to movies, like I know someone who goes to a movie and they'll sit in the movie and you walk out and they remember absolutely nothing about it. They'll watch something on the monitor and they'll see this great thing and then they remember absolutely nothing about it. You can show them the next day and they go, oh, I haven't seen this before. Yeah, you did. You saw it yesterday. What's going on is the fact that people need the time to just let go. They don't really listen. Me, I put myself in everything I see. That's why I have to be really cautious about what movies I see. You go to a kung fu place and you walk out going, yeah, yeah, right? You do all those weird things and you split your pants by trying to kick high or something. You do all these dumb things, right? Because you saw it in the movies. And you got to understand the way the brain works is it's got what's called mirror neurons. Everybody repeat after me. Mirror neurons. And what happens is when you see someone cry, you feel what they feel and you cry too. Now a person that's autistic, not artistic, autistic, almost the same. Anyway, so an autistic person has no mirror neurons. They don't feel anything. You can cry in front of them, they don't feel anything, right? Sometimes the sociopaths have no mirror neurons. So there are several humans that are born without any feelings for the other person at all. Zero. And those are people you don't want to be around because they really don't care about you and they don't care about anything you say. But you and I, when we go to movies, you got to understand, you're unconsciously going through that. And you'll watch yourself quote from movies. You'll watch yourself acting like what happened in the movies. Seriously. And the thoughts that come to your mind, well, that person pissed me off. I'm going to Rambo on him, right? Well, who's a Rambo? Well, the movie Rambo. No, it's a bad idea. Don't go there. But we watch these movies always, and it becomes our unconscious level of thinking. And that's what you have to watch out for. How do you respond to a given situation? You are conditioning yourselves without realizing it. Watch how you are conditioning yourself. Because if you don't pay attention to how you're conditioning yourself, then you might well embrace the consequences. Do you understand? Everybody here is conditioning themselves. Whether it's positive or negative, that's what you're doing. So if you're going to be in and video game, people say, well, why is it that all these people that commit these terrible crimes spend a lot of time in video games? Well, the video games is a sense of reality. That's how to respond in a given situation. And when your situation kind of parallels to it, then you want to fulfill what's in the game. It's called conditioning. Be wise of what you're doing to your life. Be careful how you condition yourself. Be careful what movies you watch. Because your movies are an experience that you're having through your mirror neurons. Not only are they, you go to a movie. Do you walk out there relaxed or your heart beating? If you watch the movie, you're like, and you're walking out, and you're like, whoa, sweat pouring down your face. What did you do? I didn't do anything. I just watched. I said, what's going on? The mirror neurons, you're the one jumping out the building. You're the one beating up somebody. You're the one cutting off their heads. You're the one eviscerating them. Ooh, oh, wow, wow. Be careful how you do it because you're actually experiencing it. Your body is experiencing what you're watching. This is why when I watched the Titanic, I watched the movie Titanic and I was like, I couldn't stand it. I had to walk out. I know that sounds weird. People convinced me to go see a movie. And they even pay for me to go to a movie. But that doesn't mean I have to sit there and watch it. So I'm sitting there watching it. I can't stand this. And I get up and walk out. And where are you going? I'm out of here. Why? Because I see it affecting what? Me. It's actually programming me to respond to what? Seeing thousands of people die. And do absolutely what? Nothing. I will not be programmed that way. You understand? I will not stand by and watch hundreds and thousands of people die. My brain, after watching that movie, went through months trying to figure out how to save everybody. I figured it out. The inside of that thing was all wood. There was enough material to build rafts for 15 people. And you send them out, get the next one, build it. And they had all the skilled people down below. They were all locked up. Just have them start tearing all the wood off, making planks, putting it on barrels, putting the people on it, making a rope that kept them from falling off, and send them off. You got everybody out there because the Titanic didn't sink like that. It took 14 hours. There was more than enough time to make rafts for everybody. But people have to adhere to it, that this thing cannot sink. Bullshit. I'm sorry, excuse me. So what we have is a real situation. So I asked everybody here, what do you do before you act? Right? Before you act. Because God requires you not to do anything. All right? The God of Israel, the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, the God of Moses, the God of David, the God of Jesus Christ requires you to do absolutely what? Nothing. And it's like, what? That's right. All the religions of man require you to do something. This, the God of the author of this book, requires you to do absolutely nothing. All God wants you to do is one thing. And it has nothing to do with doing. Nothing at all. Now, stop and think. How many last time you did something? I have mentioned before. If you stole, what did you do before you stole? You thought about it. And then you did it. It's called premeditation. You think about it and you do it. Think about it and you do it. Who's responsible for your thinking? Who? You are. Before you lied, what'd you do? Thought about it. Then you made the decision what to say, knowing full well it was not true. Anybody ever lie? Nobody raised their hands. That's interesting. Okay. Come on. We've all stepped that line. The reason you did that is because you have a thought and you're like, oh, I'll lie. Don't pretend no, I'm a saint. Can't you tell? No, it doesn't work like that. Okay? So understand, before you act, there is a what? Thought. Now what's before the thought? Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Knock, knock, knock. What's before the thought? A desire. You have an image of a situation, and then you have your desires, and you compare what the situation is with your desires. And when the desires dictate and more important than what is true, what is right, then you will put that aside and do that which is not right. Does that make sense? So you have desire first. Well, why do you have desires? Why? No, you stop and think about all the people you meet. Notice that they fall into groups. There's called male and female. They have different what? Desires. And because they have different desires, they have a different identity. So once you realize something and you see the world a certain way, then you see yourself as you are, then you think along those lines, and then you act accordingly. And you have your value system in that way. Is that making sense? You've got to know why. We're not robots. Nobody walks around going, someone's just taking possession of me. That's not how it works. That's just not how it works. You understand? You're not robots. But you do and you can change your reality and your identity by what you think about. Now, I'm so stupid that I cannot stand a movie watching someone die in front of me and do absolutely nothing. I cannot do that. Yet, people can drive by on the freeway and see someone dying or in a car accident and just pass on by. I can't do that. I just can't. I have to stop and take care of them. People just pass right on by, don't do anything about it because they just want to look. Ooh, look how bad that person is, and keep on going. And have I almost got killed taking care of it? Yeah. There was one time it was raining and a car came running through and it flipped. And here comes more cars. I'm like, oh no, this is a really bad idea. Because the car was upside down and the cars were coming across and the rain was coming down. It was a really quick turn. And that's why the guy flipped. So I come running out there in the rain and I stand there in front of all these cars coming on, and I say, stop, and they go, Arr! I go that way, and they come around really slow, and they see the accident. I'm standing out there soaking wet, trying to stop people, and a few of them almost hit me. Talk about ingrates. But anyway, that would have really pissed me off. All right, so, but you understand, most people can stand by and watch hundreds and thousands of people being butchered on television, and they're conditioned. Why? You're conditioning what? Yourself. Don't do that. Don't allow. You have to find out what kind of person you want to be, and then you do everything that builds that and nothing that tears it down. Everybody with me on this? All right. So, if I go to God, what will He fix for me? I need more money. I want to buy a big 40-inch flat screen television. And all my bills are maxed out. My paychecks are paid off. How do I get God to give me more pay? God is not the God of doing anything. God is not the God of this world. Though He's the ultimate owner of this world and the ultimate authority, but you can understand what God gives. And this is very important if you're going to read the Bible. So let's go and find out what God do. All right, so let me ask you a question. I want you to say, what do God do? Ready? Go. What do God do? All right, it's a very hard sentence to say. What do God do? Here we go. Proverbs. Chapter 2, verse 6. For the Lord giveth what? Wisdom. Out of His mouth cometh what? Knowledge. And number 3, what? Understanding. That's it. Well, I don't want wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. I want a 40-inch flat panels. Then you got the wrong God. You just got the wrong God. Go to the Roman Catholic Church. I didn't mean to say that. Yes, I did. Anyway, so you need to go somewhere else because that's not how God works. Do you understand? He gives you knowledge, wisdom, and what? Now, what else is interesting? God won't give you any more than you can handle. Let's go into 2 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. Verse 13. There is no temptation taken to you such as common to man, but God is faithful, who will not suffer, that word suffer means allow, you to be tempted above which you are what? Able. So God's not going to give you more than you can handle. So let's say, for instance, one of these young ladies over here come to their mother and say, Mom, I want a Harley Davidson. Can they handle a Harley Davidson? No. Now maybe they want to handle maybe start off with a 50 or a 90 cc, but a Harley Davidson's can you picture yourself driving a Harley Davidson? Okay, cool. But she walks in and says, Mom, I want a Harley Davidson. What would you, if your daughter came up to you and said, I want a Harley Davidson, what would you say? Not happening, right? Now, if you get a 6-year-old and he wants some Harley Davidson, what are you going to give him? You're going to give him a tricycle that looks like a motorcycle. You're going to give him a tricycle because that's what he can what? You don't take your 6-year-old, start up the Harley Davidson, put his hands on the handle and go, all right, go! And his little feet are flying in the back. That's not a good idea. That's not how it works. Did he do that to you? Oh, okay. But do you understand the problem? You never tempt people above which they are what? And God don't either. God never tempts you above which you are able. So the key is, how do you know when you're able? Because God's only going to allow you to have what you can handle. Now, what about the other side? What about the other side? Now, here's the problem. When people are given $20 million from the lottery, what happens to them? 8 out of 10 of them wind up in a worse situation. If they had a house after they've had the $20 million, they not only lose all that 20 million, but they also lose their house, their car, and they wind up in tremendous debt that can't be undone. What happened? Because when you give someone, if I gave each one of you $1,000, what would you do with it? Spend it! Get rid of it! I'm just a poor Mexican. That's your reality. I can't have money. I'm poor. And if you were to put $10,000 in your hand, you go, and spend it. I'm back to being poor again. I'm so glad. That was so rough to get through. Do you understand? Nobody here, everybody goes, I want to be rich, but if they give you the money, you blow it. Yes or no? Oh, I want to be rich. Not if your identity, not if your reality is, I'm a poor, dumb Mexican. All right, congratulations. You're going to prove it. I give you $10,000, you're going to blow it. You don't know how to do anything with the money except spend it. Yes or no? How many here know how to invest? How many have been trained in investing? What's your limit? Where's your signature good for? 120? 150,000? 200,000? $500,000? 1 million? How many here are legal? Well, there's a word for it. It's called a fiduciary. Anyone here legal fiduciaries? Yeah, I am. I'm licensed. You want to know how to invest? You better learn what? I mean, if you really are that sharp, then you have zero debt. Zero debt. And you have all this stuff that you've set aside that's investing and making money for you. How many are in that state? How many are barely making your bills? How many have more debt than you got income? What happened? Poor. Give me money and I spend it. And the next paycheck's already spent. And the next paycheck of that's already spent. Just the way it is. Don't play that game. What's the problem? Your identity is, I'm a poor. So what's going to happen payday? Money's already gone. Payday after that, money's already gone. See? I'm a poor dumb. I proved it. You understand? In order to change your actions, you have to change what? Your thoughts. If you don't change your thoughts, then you don't change your actions. You don't think about how can I invest this money to make more. You want to spend it and get rid of it. And then you spend and get rid of the next paycheck and the paycheck after it. That is not sharp. But that's your reality. That's why you're working so hard to get there. So, will God put you in a situation you cannot handle? No. But if you're not ready to handle it, if I give you $10,000, would you know what to do with it? Nope. So God ain't going to give it to you. Can you handle $5,000? If you can't, then God's not going to give it to you. God will only put in your hands what you can handle. And if you're going to botch it and blow it all away, guess how much you're going to get? Zero. Because God gives three things. Knowledge, wisdom, and what? To increase your capacity. To increase your ability. Does everybody understand this? Now, when we look at this, we have to say, okay, what is the problem here? The problem is the way the actions, and all we as Greeks and Romans do is condemn actions. But that's not the problem. It's what's causing it what? Behind. Now, let me show you something. Let's go into Matthew. Matthew chapter 22. Verse 36. Master, what is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus said unto him, thou shalt agape. Agape. What is agape? It says love, but it's not love. And neither is miseo, hate. They're both terribly translated by St. Jerome. Erroneous. Thou shalt agape. Agape is what a parent does to a child. Didn't I tell you not to do that? Didn't I say to do this instead? The child goes, okay, right? The candy falls out of his mouth. The child picks it up, goes and no, put that in the trash. There's germs on it. I don't see any germs. Put it in the trash, right? The child either has to see the dream, has to see the germs, or not. It has to change its what? Thinking. It has to change its perception of what? Even though he can't see them, he's got to visualize that it's there. And when he does, then he's going to go, there's bugs on it. Okay, and throw it away. If he does not see it, once the parents are gone, you understand the problem? So notice that there's how many parts? 3 parts. Now we have God gives what? Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And it says, heart, that you are to agape God. That means change your perception to match God's. Thou shalt agape the Lord God with all thy what? Heart, soul, and what? Oh, look, there's 3. Knowledge, wisdom, and what? Heart, soul, and what? You see, the word heart is weird because in the Eastern text, heart's different. We have all our emotions come from our heart in our culture. And I give you my heart. There's a long history to it, which I don't want to go into, where that comes from. It's amazing. But anyway, in the Eastern culture, it's the loins, and you're going to see that. The woman's loins did, you don't believe me? It's not her heart. Let's go into Kings. And in Kings chapter 3, 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 16. Then came there 2 women that were harlots unto the king and stood before him. The one woman said, O my Lord, I and this woman, this is right to the king, dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the 3rd day that I was delivered, that this woman delivered also. And we were together, and there was no stranger with us in the house, save we 2 in the house. And this woman's child died in the night because she overlaid it. Wow, what a considerate mother. Verse 20. And she arose at midnight and took my son from beside me while thine handmaiden slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. When I arose in the morning and gave my child suck, that's nursing, behold, it was dead. But when I considered in the morning, behold, it was not my son, but which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living son is my son, and the dead is thy son. And they said, No, but the dead is thy son, the living is my son. Thus they spoke before the king. Now, if you're the king, what would you do? Then said the king, The one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is dead. And the other said, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. The king said, Bring me a sword. They brought a sword before the king. The king said, Divide the living child in 2. Give half to one and half to the other. Then spoke the woman whose living child was unto the king for her what? Bowels. That area that's in, that is what, not heart, but what? Bowels. Loins. These are the terms that are used. Not her heart. Heart is different. In the Bible culture, heart means how you see reality. Again, what's heart? How you see reality. Emotions in the Bible come from the what? The bowels, the loins. You're going to see that. Gird up thy loins. Control your emotions. O my Lord, give her the living child, and in no way slay it. For the other said, Let it neither be mine nor thine, but divide it. The king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no way slay it. She is the real mother. She's the mother. Okay. Is there any wisdom to that? Yes. Is there any understanding to that? Yes. What would you have done? How would you prove it? You see, if you want to be in position of authority and power, You've got to have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to handle that position. And if you're no better than a common laborer, that's because you can't make decisions on your own and someone has to supervise you. You have no wisdom, you have no knowledge, you have no understanding, and you'll forever flip burgers. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? You got to understand why things happen. You have to understand how the process works so that you can influence it. How many here want to be in charge? Guess what? God wants you in charge. But God will not put you in a situation you cannot what? So quit faking it. I'm a son of God. It don't mean shit. You can't play that game. I demand preference. Over what? Because if it was your reality, how would you act? So we have 3 parts. There's the heart, the soul, and the what? Mind. Now the mind is what you think about before you do something. This is how you justify things. The other is your identity. I need this. I need this to make me complete. I need this to verify my perception of myself. It's part of my identity. Girls, you ever gone on a date and the other guy talks about his car? That's part of his identity. Does that understand what I'm talking about? Girls go out with a guy and the guy just talks about, hey, look at my car, isn't it cool? Look at what I got. Look at windows work. You understand how dumb this is? Or guys into sports, and they walk around going, hey, give me a basketball. Let me show you what I can do. It means absolutely what? Nothing. Depends on what makes you who you are. What you own? What makes you who you are? And why did you want to become that? Because you perceive reality a certain way. So here we go. When you were a child, how many here were children? All right. When you were a child, you thought of yourself as a member of the family. Yes or no? Now, I'm the oldest of 9 kids, which is intense. Later on, very shortly, was only 8, but that's okay. All right. So being the oldest of 8, growing up, taking care of them, I was always doing my best to maintain that. Right? Because I felt I had to. Right? Now, my middle brother did not behave to be caring about the family. He could care less about the family. And the youngest one had no responsibilities whatsoever and didn't want any. So they all are different because how they perceive reality. So who was in charge? Who was responsible? I am. So what happens? My brother would break a windshield or he'd get in trouble and it was my fault. That sucks, but that's just the way it works. Now, if you're a child and you go into a store and you knock something over, who pays for it? Your parents do. You don't. Your parents do. Try it. Go into a store, knock things over, break them. Your mom will pay for it. You won't have to pay for anything. So when you're young, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to be paid by anybody. Right? You can do whatever you want to, and mom and dad got the bill covered. Until reality hits. Then you're like, I'm responsible for what I do? Yeah. Always have been. All right. So, you start off first, how do you perceive reality? If you believe the world's going to end, would you act differently than you do now? If you thought the world was coming to an end in 2 weeks, would you change how you act? You see the difference here. So if you perceive that everything's going to stay the same, then you're going to act what? The same. And you're going to have the same problems you've always had, and you will not change or grow. How many here want to stay the same that you've been for the last 10 years? How many want to improve yourself? But you run to a school and you try to learn something and you're like, I can't get this. Why? Because it doesn't fit your dumb Mexican mentality. Does God see Mexicans? Does God see Americans? Does God see Cubans or freaking Argentinians or Norwegians? God doesn't see any of that. So why do you? You mean you're supposed to see things as God sees them? Yes. That's the changing of your reality. God don't see actions. God doesn't see your outside. God doesn't see your appearance. God doesn't see anything you do. The only thing that God looks at, and this is a weird one, you ready? God looks on the what? Heart. Let's go into 2 Samuel. Chapter 6, 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 7. Now Samuel's the prophet. And the Lord said unto Samuel, verse 7, look not on his countenance. What's a countenance? Face, right? Oh, what a how many ever look at a woman and say, oh my, for you guys, right? Oh my God, what a fox, right? It's got a long nose, furry. No. You go, oh my gosh, she's so gorgeous, right? Did you hear her words? Did you talk to her? Find out what's inside of her? Oops. How many have found someone that's absolutely gorgeous, spent 20 minutes with her and go, get me out of here? How fast can I run? Where is my getaway shoes? All right. So, how many women here have went, oh my gosh, what a hunk, and spend 20 minutes with them going, get me out of here? What happened? Because once you started seeing what was going on the inside, it's get me out of here. But you know, we want trophies. See what I got and you don't. Just don't open your mouth. See what I got. Keep your mouth shut. All right, chapter 16, verse 7. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his pretty face or on the height of his stature, because I have what? Refused him. Whoa! For the Lord seeth not as a man seeth, for a man looketh on the what? Outward appearance, but the Lord on the what? The heart. How is he seeing reality? Well, everybody sees reality different. That's right. And that's what God's seeing. How are you seeing reality? Well, everybody sees it different. That's right. So, turn the page, go backward. Not go backward, I mean go back this way. Chapter 13. Verse 13. And Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Now, what does foolishly mean? Oh, he started acting dorky. No. Poured the lampshade on his head. No, what are we talking about? What's foolish mean? You don't go to the dictionary with this. You let the Bible interpret what? Itself. So, put your hand here and go to Psalms. If you don't understand these things I'm teaching you, the Bible is going to be pretty darn shut. Psalms 14. The definition of what a fool is. It's not your or my definition. It's what the Word says. Psalm 14:1. The fool has said in his what? What's heart? There is no God. No, anybody here know fools? All right. So a fool is someone who says there is no God. What happened to Saul, the king of Israel? He knew there was a God. He was ordained of God. And he stood as king. And then he said, there is no God. How could someone change like that? Because what they associate with. How do you want to do? What made you want to do martial arts? Watching martial arts movies. What changes you is what you watch, what you talk about, what you think about. Changes your what? Reality. Verse 14. Well, I'm sorry. Thou hast done foolishly. Verse 13. Thou shalt not thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God. What does it say? To agape God with all your what? With all your what? With all your what? That's it. Did he do it? No. For now the Lord would have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought him a man after his own what? So the more your heart, your perception of reality, lines up with God's perception of reality, the more God wants you in charge. If you're thinking opposite in God, God will not give you anything. He'll try and keep giving you knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, but you're thinking the wrong direction. You're not going to get anything. Do you ever understand? That's why you got this book, so that you can see God's thoughts, and you can change your thoughts to align with His. Right? Packing it in. So my Bible looks like this. Okay. All right. Now, does everybody understand how this works? You have knowledge, wisdom, and then what? Aha. All right, let's stop and think about when you're a mini micro person, right? Micro mini person, carpet commander, yeah, micro mini person. Okay. So, when you're this tall, did you know what a man was? Yes. Could you be a man? No. Because there was no knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of what it means to be a man. There was no knowledge of how to do anything. You're only 6 years old. Was everything that was to be a man was in there, but the heart and the soul and the mind were not ready yet. Right? By the time he's 14, has he got it? Nope. He's taking his sister's mascara and trying to make the mustache thing. I know, I did that. I'm older. And it's not. You're not. Everybody's like, yeah, right, kid. All right, so you're trying. It doesn't. Now, have you ever met someone who's 12 or 13 and you're amazed at how mature they are? At first glance, they look like they're just, kids. But the moment they open their mouth, they're like, whoa. That child is not a child. That's an adult in a child's body. You ever run into that one? Go and visit some kids in Israel. They're all capable of protecting their families, providing for their families, and they're kick-ass fighters. And they're only 13. They have a really good, accurate perception of life. So, when you come to the Bible, you've got to really see things from God's perspective and adjust accordingly. And this is very important. So what has to change? What has to change to be right with God? Your thinking. Well, how do you get your thinking changed? You have to have different thoughts. Well, you're going to think like who? Well, God says you are. Now, in order for that to happen, you got to be able to change your what? Your reality. Remember, agape God with all your what? Heart. Then all your what? Soul. And then all your what? Mind. And now your actions will change. So we want to change this part and this part. God says, no, you start where? Here. Change your reality to conform with God. Change your identity to say what God says you are. And then change your what? Thinking. And then you will produce the results. As Greeks and Romans, we just want people to act a certain way. God don't care what you do. God don't care what you do. He does care how you perceive reality, who you think you are, and how you think. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll help you think God's Word. I'll help you see from God's perspective. And I'll help you accept the identity He's given you. But as to what to do, there's nothing in here. How many think the laws are there? There's 900 laws. Yeah, there is. Why? Because people wanted it. We want laws. God says, you don't want laws. Yes, we do. We want a king. God says, you don't want a king. I'll be your king. No, we want a king. All right, here we go. God never wanted to give laws. You don't believe me? Look it up in Psalms. God never wanted to give laws. People demanded it. And they wanted to know what the penalty was if they broke it. You ever hire somebody, you go, yeah, I'm ready to go. Okay, I'm ready to work for you. So what happens when I don't go to work? What happens if I do less than what you're asking me to do? Are you going to hire that person? No. So everybody understand, you've got to be able to, your perception reality has to what? Change first. And the only way to do that is to see from whose perspective. And until you do, ain't nothing happening. The second part, the thoughts don't change yet. The thoughts don't change yet, nor the actions. We're all interested in changing the outward appearance. Don't worry about that. Change the what? Your perception reality in line with God, accept His identity, and then all of a sudden your thoughts start to change. You don't believe me? All right. Take a guy who's got a girlfriend. They've been sweethearts for a couple of years. Right? Has everybody got that? Now, he's got a perception reality. He's got a thinking process, and he knows who he is. All of a sudden he gives her a big smooch, and she whispers in the ear, I'm pregnant. Does that change anything? Does that change anything? You ought to see the expression in his face. Now, has his world just changed? Now what does he got to do? Change his what? Identity. And that's scary for a man. Like, okay, I'm going to be, ooh. Now, does he change after that comes to a realization for him? Yes. Does he act differently? Yes. Because his reality has what? Changed. His thinking now changes, and his actions correspondingly change. This is so difficult to understand. Does a woman change after she finds out that she's pregnant? Does her value systems change? Why? Because reality changed. Identity changed. And the corresponding what? Actions change. Now, I'm not advising anyone to be a father or go out and get pregnant. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm telling you what you're to understand what's going on. Once your reality changes and your identity changes, then your thinking changes, then your what? Actions change. All right, everybody got that? Isn't that great? Now we're going to see some examples in the Bible, and you tell me what's happening. All right? Here we go. Let's go to Genesis. We're not going to chapter 1. No, we've already seen that one. Chapter 37. Now, at this point in time, there is a man of God on earth called Jacob. He's really, really spiritually sharp. He has God's knowledge, wisdom, and what? He's really sharp. He could be sharper, but, got to understand how much word was given at that time. That's it. Ain't a lot of word. So, compared to what we got now, so you got to understand, the reason they're not as sharp as you would expect is because there wasn't a lot to change your mind to yet. Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger in the land of Canaan. Excuse me. Okay. And these are the generations of Jacob. Joseph being how old? 17. We're in Genesis 37, verse 2. All right, Joseph being what? 17 years old. Anyone here 17? How about 16? Around there, anyone? All right, how about 18-year-olds? Any 18-year-olds? Okay. So you're not too far off. Okay, hang in there. All right, being 17-year-old was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah and his father's wives, and Joseph brought a father their evil report. Now, verse 3. Now Israel, that's Jacob, that's his name. God changed his name to Israel. Loved, and that's the word aheb, right? That's the word aheb. So, in the New Testament, like here it says, you shall agape. It doesn't say agape. It says in Deuteronomy chapter 6, you are to love God, and that word love is aheb. So it matches with the New Testament, so it's the word aheb, which is the same as agape, which means you take God's thoughts, take out yours and put God's thoughts in, right? To have God's reality, the identity that God gives you, and the chain, and have God's what? Thoughts. Does that make sense? So when he says that he agape, here it's aheb, it's Hebrew, the Old Testament's Hebrew, New Testament's Greek. How Israel aheb, agaped, Joseph more than all his what? Why? Why? Why does God prefer one person over the rest of the population of the earth? Why is Jacob preferred above all the other people on earth? There's over 1 billion people. Why? Because God's thoughts, his thoughts and God's were what? Right. He was having God's thoughts. He saw God's reality and saw himself from whose perspective? God's. So this is what is agape. When you have God's thoughts, God looks down and sees there's one person that has my thinking, and he's going to work with that person. Can't play games with God. God's not passing out Oscars for pretending you're with me. For wearing a funny hat and a backward collar, you get an Oscar. There's no Oscars, unlike Greeks and Romans. But we magnify people who fool us. We reward them to deceive us. That's not good. That's not a good idea. Israel agape, it's aheb in Hebrew, more than all his brothers, because he was the son of his what? That's the worst translation I've ever seen. Wisdom comes from age. Old age means great wisdom. It's just a figure of speech. Right? Does everybody understand? Like my lovely wife likes to run around all day, right? All over the city. She's not athletic. She's talking about driving. But we use that term of what? Running around. So that person is great wisdom. So he was the son of his great what? Wisdom. Where did he get his wisdom from? Now understand, you can read all the books about bicycles and riding a bicycle, but do you have the wisdom of riding it? Not until you get your bootay on the seat, right? You got to put your gluteus maximus on the seat and start pedaling. When you do, you realize it's not as easy as it looks. And you gain what? Wisdom as you ride the bicycle. Reading all the books were great, but you didn't know how to what? To ride. You get yourself on the bicycle and start pedaling. Now you understand how to what? Now, you can get so good at this that you can actually pop it up on the rear wheel and ride it on the rear wheel. That takes what? That's understanding. How many here have the knowledge of riding a bicycle? How many have the wisdom of riding a bicycle? How many have the understanding? Notice there's no rear wheel riders. Are you a rear wheel rider? Huh? How long? Go down at least 2 or 3 miles? About a mile? Half a mile? All right, does everybody understand the difference between knowledge, wisdom, and understanding? How many here just want knowledge? Wrong God. How many here want knowledge and wisdom? Then you got to do what it says. And as you do it, you begin to, aha. And as you continue to do it, you get what? And it's amazing that nobody really goes beyond wisdom. It's really sad. So, of all his sons, how many had his wisdom? How many were doing and seeing from God's perspective and accepting the identity that God gave him? Only what? Of all the people on earth, why is God only recognizing Jacob? Because, do you understand what you got an opportunity here? To know more than any of them before you. To be one of the greatest men on earth. You got all their examples. You got everything God's showing you. Amazing. So now we have God working with who? Jacob, right? And Jacob, God, underneath Jacob, God's working with who? Joseph. Well, Joseph's the youngest one. He's like, 17 years old. And he's got 11 other brothers. Sorry. That's the way it works. And he made him a coat of many colors. What the heck does that mean? Exactly, there are 12 colors. And it's not colors, it's symbols. What you do is you have a cloth, and they got plenty of archaeological evidence of it. If you're a priest, or if you go to God for somebody, you wear a cloak, and that cloak has got symbols representing each one of the tribes that you're going to God for. If you're going to do the sacrifices, well, God already established the sacrifices. When to sacrifice. You're supposed to give 1/10 of what you produce and give it to God. So the person who would do that would not be Jacob, but would be who? So not only does he have knowledge, he also has what? He's got wisdom. So he became the one to go to God for all his tribe, his brothers and sisters, their wives, their children, everybody. He was the one who went. Why? Because he had his father's what? Not only knowledge of God, but also what? Wisdom. Verse 4, and when his brethren, his older brothers, saw that their father aheb him more than all his brethren, they hated him. Now that's a very godly attitude, right? Did they ask God if it was right on? No. It should be me! It should be me! That's not how it works. It has nothing to do with outside. It has everything to do you have what it takes on the what? Inside. And they hated him and could not speak peaceably with him. Now my brother, I loved a lot, right? I loved all my brothers and sisters. But my brother's a little stinker. How many have ever been to bed? Everybody go to bed? Right? How many have ever gone to bed with snakes and you put your legs in there and you're laying in there and you put your legs in there and you feel these cold things moving against your leg? My brother had 6 snakes and he knew I hated them. So he dumped them in my bed. This is my loving brother. He made a little present for me out of a cigar box. So I wrapped him around and put a bow on it. And I lifted it up and it was a tarantula. And of course the tarantula always runs to its darkest thing it sees. And so it ran toward me. I frickin' killed it. He was furious that I killed his tarantula. My brother and me go through a lot together. You ever put on? How many ever put your shoes on? How many ever take your shoes off? Ever put your shoes on with someone putting super glue in them? My brother did that to me. Did I beat the tar out of my brother? Yes. Did my mother and dad beat the tar out of me? Yes. Did I tell him why I'm beating the tar out of him? No. So, how many are the oldest of? How many got like 8 brothers and sisters? Anyone here? 5 sisters? You all get along really well? Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, they didn't love him, and when his brethren saw that their father ahebbed him more than all his brethren, they what? Hated him. What does it mean to hate somebody? Well, let's find out what it means to hate somebody. This is 11 brothers who happened to what? Hate him. How many have ever had a bad day? My brother loved me, and he did some nasty things to me. I did some nasty things to him too, but that's beside the point. These brothers hate him. They hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. So all the time, every time they spoke to him, it was, They're always saying bad things to him, roughing him up, because he's the youngest one, and picking on him, giving him a hard time. And Joseph dreamed a dream. It's not dreamed a dream. He had a vision. When you concentrate on God and you see things from God's perspective and you hold that for as long as possible, you get visions. God will give you things to help you understand. So Joseph dreamed a dream and told to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said to them, "Here, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed." What's he trying to tell them? This is from God. That's, He's speaking from God. For behold, there were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. What does that mean? The labors of your life will be to honor my labors. In other words, I'm going to be in charge over y'all. And now, why did God show him that? Because he's been going through hell with his brothers, and God said, hey, here's what's coming up. So he goes, wow, I got to tell my brothers. Maybe they'll understand me. No, it didn't work like that. Why it's always good when God gives you revelation. Don't tell people unless God says it's okay. He didn't do that. He just ran over and told them. And his brethren said to him, shall thou indeed reign over us? Shall thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams. So that made him really love him, right? They really cared about him. I'm sure they put plenty of super glue in his shoes. I'm sure they put tarantulas in a box. I'm sure they put snakes in his bed like my brother. And he loved me. So I'm sure there was far worse. And he dreamed yet another dream and told it to his brethren, saying, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And this is a vision. You don't get these visions unless you first have only God's reality, God's identity, and you have no other thought. Then you get God gives you clarity. And he dreamed yet another dream and told it to his brethren and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And this goes back to Melchizedek. And if you read the account in the Hebrew, he gave him, it didn't say count the stars, he gave him the whole purpose of the stars. And that's why it says that you are the prophecy what the stars are talking about. So he gave them the account of the stars. Didn't mean count, account. So the thing is, his father is the sun, and his moon is his mother, and the 11 stars are his brothers. Remember, 11 brothers. Verse 10, and he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Vision thou hast envisioned. Shall I and my mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow ourselves down to the earth to thee? To the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the what? Why? Because he knows that he got it from who? From God. So, his brothers leave it, and he's all by himself, and they all go off and leave him alone, and they go take the sheep, and he wasn't there. Verse 18, so he goes to find them. Verse 18, and when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against to what? Now, my brother beat me up, and I beat him up. Yeah, he fractured my jaw. I fractured his skull. He fractured my skull. I broke his 2 ribs. This is what brothers do to each other. But my brother never wanted to kill me. Imagine having 11 brothers who want to kill you. That's what's happening. Verse 19, they said one to another, behold, the dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into the pit. And we'll say some evil beast has devoured him. But we shall see what will come of his dreams. Does Joseph have knowledge? Does he have wisdom? He's working on understanding. 21, because he has to stand for God. Reuben heard it and delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. Reuben said unto him, shed no blood, but cast him into the pit that is in the wilderness. Lay no hand upon him. So you can imagine every day he woke up, his brothers harassed him. They hurt him. They said bad things about him. They wanted to kill him. Now they're going to kill him, and the oldest said, don't kill him. Thank goodness for older brothers, right? Now what happens is they sell him into slavery. Verse 27, come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, lest not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother in our flesh. Oh, how sweet. And his brethren were content. There passed by the Midianite merchantmen. They drew and lifted Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for what? 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph to Egypt. Now let me explain about being a slave. What do they do to you? They starve you. They tell you to do something. If you don't respond real quick, they beat you. In the military, to make someone, you come in as a civilian, it takes 14 weeks to convert someone to being a military. You got to undo their identity, undo their reality, and reconstruct it. Well, in learning to be a slave, you are taken as a slave, and they break you, and they beat you, and they tell you to do something. If you don't respond, they beat you. So they try and get you to be a malleable person to where whatever you're told to do, you will do. So that's kind of intense. So now he's going through slave training. How many have ever had a rough time? Anyone been to boot camp? Anybody done Marine training? Yeah, they don't really care about you. They do want you to pass, though. But so here they were trying to make a good slave out of him. All right, so, and what they did, verse 29, and Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. What they do, verse 31, they took Joseph's coat, killed the kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, said, this is what we have found. Know now whether thy son's coat or not. Yeah, they knew. And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat, and the evil beast has devoured him. The evil beast happens to be his sons. So now he's sold into what? How many have ever had a bad day? Imagine having a bad day. So here we go. So here you are. If you're in Joseph's place, you are now going through slave training for several months. You're shaved your head, you run around basically naked, and everybody disgraces you, and you have to not respond. You're told to do something. If you don't, they whip you, they break you. So anyway, in verse 36, and the Midianites sold him, chapter 37, 36, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. Here we go. Now he is an Egyptian what? And the Egyptians just love their slaves. No, they don't. So a slave has to first start off taking care of all the house pots, right? There's no such thing as indoor plumbing. There's just little pots that you poop in or piss in. And your job is to take care of that and clean them. That's basically your first job. Your other job is to, there's a lot of nasty things, but you start off that as your beginning part as a slave. So you go through all the worst things you can imagine. But what happened? And we go into, find out what happened, chapter 39. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard of Egyptians, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites. And the Lord, verse 2, and the Lord was what? Wait a minute. How do you get God to be with you? How do you get God? I want God to be with me. How do you got to do it? You got to line up your what? Your heart. Your what? Soul, your identity. Your perception, reality, your identity, and your what? Thinking. Now God is with you. It doesn't, remember what happened to Saul? He no longer said there's a God. So he didn't adjust his thinking, he didn't adjust his reality or his identity. He just let God out. And he was totally independent. So how do you get God to be with you? How? You have to see things from whose perspective? God's. I mean, come and think of it. Who do you like to spend time with? People that think like you, accept you for what you think you are, and they think the same thoughts. That's who you want to be with. God's no different. You think God's reality as he sees it, value what he values, and see yourself as he sees you? You and God are tight. Got it? This is not rocket science, by the way. It really isn't. But what do I got? You don't have to do anything. It has nothing to do with doing. It has everything to do with what's going on in here. I'm not talking about indigestion. I'm talking about what's going on in your perception of reality. Got it? Everybody go like this? Good. If not, I'll have to repeat myself. So, and the Lord was with Joseph. Why? Because his thinking, his identity, his perception, reality happened to conform to whose? Ah, 1, 2, 3. Ah, who knows this? Nobody. Nobody understands this. It's like totally foreign. And what happened? He was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. What is he? A slave. What is he in charge of? Watch what happened. He went from changing the pots and cleaning them. Verse 3. And his master saw that the Lord was what? With him. And the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found Kadis, grace, that's identity. He saw himself as God says he is in his sight, and he served him. He saw him from God's point of view and made him overseer over his house, over all that he put in his hand. Whoa! And it came to pass from that time that he had made him overseer of the house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house. For whose sake? Does God really see the Egyptian? No. God, when God looks at the earth, what does he see? Who's thinking my thoughts? Who sees things as I see them? Who values things as I value them? Are they thinking what I think? And as God looks over the earth, what does he see? Oh God, can you hear me? The answer is no. And it came to pass in that time they made him overseer of his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that was in all in Joseph's hands. And he knew not aught what he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly. What's good? Fulfilling God's word. And well favored. That word favored deals with identity. All right, so is that interesting? So did God give him what he could handle? And as he was more capable, God gave him more. And now what happens? And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife laid her eyes upon him. And she said, lie with me. See, she doesn't like telling the truth. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master withholdeth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath in my hand. There is none greater in this house than I. Neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against who? What? What has God got to do with this? What does God have to do with it? What does God have to do with it? We're talking about getting laid. That's what it talks about. That's what it says. What does God have to do with this? It doesn't say offend. I mean, I can't do this to Pharaoh, to Potiphar. But how should I do this? And what sin? Thinking opposite from who? Separating himself either in heart, soul, or mind from who? God. Oops. What's his priority? Thinking God's what? Thoughts. Seeing from God's what? Priority. Focusing his thinking to align with God. And that doesn't line up because she's a real turkey. Anyway. People think, well, the Bible's boring. No, it's not. Why would you want to watch a daytime drama when this is much more intense? Verse 10, and it came to pass that she spoke to Joseph day by day, day by day. Hey, sweetheart, come here. I want to show you something. And he hearkened not unto her to lie with her. See, he doesn't like lying. And to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men in the house there within. Not too smart. And she caught him by his, garment. Saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got himself out. It came to pass, now God will not have you tempted above which you are what? Yes. I imagine that was quite a temptation. But he got through it. It came to pass when he saw that he had left his garment in his hand, he fled forth. And she called unto the men of the house, and spoke unto them, saying, See, he hath brought a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came unto me and lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. Yeah, she did. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until her Lord came out. His Lord came home. She spoke unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou brought unto us came on to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted my voice and cried, he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, that she spoke unto him, saying, After this manner did the servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound. And he was there in the prison. This is the prison that's basically called death row. You're supposed to die. They're supposed to, at a certain date, you die. It's death row. Verse 21. But the Lord was with what? Why? Because he wouldn't let go of the images and thoughts of who? He wouldn't let go of God's identity that God gave him. How often do you let go of God? How often do you claim another identity? How often do you think other thoughts? And then you walk around saying, well, God's with me. Bullshit. You turn it on or off. Joseph kept it what? On. Verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and gave mercy is to help other people see him from God's perspective, and gave him Cadiz in the sight, and the keeper of the prison saw that he was of God. Verse 22. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hands all the prisoners that were in the prison. Who's in charge? You see I have a pattern here. He went from working at Potiphar, now he's working with the prisoners. He's in charge. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. He took responsibility for everything. And the keeper of the prison would look not on anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. And then what he did, the Lord made it to what? That's pretty intense. Does it sound like your life? That every time you go to work for somebody, they put everything in your hand because they saw that it prospered? And that you were of God? Or do they think other things of you? Well, the butler and the baker of the Pharaoh did something terribly wrong. And they were both cast into prison. Obviously, the baker did it because he didn't take out all the little grains of rocks in the bread. Probably Pharaoh bit down and broke a tooth. And the wine probably got the wrong wine. And the Pharaoh got sick, so he cast them both into prison. And they each dreamed a dream. And verse 6, and Joseph came into them, in chapter 40, verse 6, came in unto them in the morning and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his Lord's house, Why look ye so sad today? And they said, We have dreamed a dream, or got a vision, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to what? Tell me. Wait a minute. Tell me? Wait a minute. Don't interpretations belong to who? Tell me. So what's he saying? You want it to go to God? Give it to me. You want to understand something to tell you by God? Tell me. Can you say that? Why not? How many of your thoughts are godly? How much of your identity is in what God says? How much of your reality is different from God? You should be able to say, if you want to know God's thoughts on it, come to me. What's your priorities? What's your value system? Is it God's or do you have your own? So what happened? Well, Joseph interpreted the dream. For the butler, he says, you're going to give, in 13 days, you're going to come before the king, the Pharaoh, and he's going to put you back in position. Guy says, great. So he grins to the baker. Baker says, well, tell me. Oh, what was it? I don't know how many days it was. 3 days. In 3 days, they're going to come in, and he's going to take your head off of you, cut your head off, which is like really a bad news. And that's exactly what happened. And they forgot about Joseph. And then because they forgot about it, they just forgot about it. Now guess who dreams a dream? Pharaoh. And guess who has... So Pharaoh doesn't know what to do. And they say, you know what? The Pharaoh, I know somebody who walks with God. Verse 12, the baker tells Pharaoh in chapter 41. The baker says to Pharaoh, not the baker, the butler. Baker's dead. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant of the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. Each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, it was so. Me he restored to mine office, and him he hanged. And Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself. Why did he shave himself? He's going before who? He's got to fit where he's going. He's got to look the part. And changed his raiment. Why? Wasn't his prison clothes good enough? And came in unto Pharaoh. Pharaoh tells him his dream. And here in verse 32, he answers, for the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. The thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, to take up fifth part of the land of Egypt in 7 plenteous years. What are we teaching here? Financial management. Let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities, that the food shall not be stored to land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this man, in whom the Spirit of God, what? What does it take to be a man or woman of God in whom the Spirit of God is? What do you got to do? You don't have to do what? Anything except God's greater perception of reality. It was God that said that the earth was a round ball suspended in the heavens before the Greeks and Romans ever figured it out. Greeks and Romans said the world was flat. There's a Bible that talks about it spinning on a fabric, and it wasn't until Einstein realized it is a fabric. It's called space-time. And it can be warped and distorted. Einstein, Planck, Newton, the greatest men in history, this was their source and inspiration. What's yours? The Cardassians? So what happened? God will not have you tempted above which you are what? Able. Is he now able to rule over the earth? Yes. Does he have sufficient wisdom? Yes. Why didn't God put him in there before? He was not what? Ready. He was not what? Ready. Well, God put you where you can handle it. Yes. Where you can rule and you can have authority and power. Well, the adversary put you somewhere. Will God win you the lottery? No. Well, if you pray real hard, will you win the lottery? No. You're not what? You can't even manage your own money. How are you going to manage another $1 million? He that is faithful in what? Least is faithful in what? If you can't manage $50 or $100 or $500, how are God going to give you more? Just making sense? If you give something to your child and he smashes it, can I have it again? Can you get me another one? The answer is what? No. God will give you what you can handle and no more. Why? I'm just a dumb person. All right, stay that way. It's your privilege. Or you can accept God's reality and start learning, practicing, taking responsibility. Does this sound like a good idea? So he says, verse 38, Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a man as this man, in whom the Spirit of God is? Pharaoh said unto Joseph, and forasmuch as God has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Can you be this person? Thou shalt be over my house. According to all the word, according to thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. What is Joseph? A slave. Who's in charge of the world? Joseph. And he's a slave. Verse 41. Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand. Now all legal agreements, all legal decrees are done by who? Not Pharaoh. And arrayed him in vestures of fine linen. Who wears fine linen? The officers of the court, including Pharaoh. And put a gold chain about his neck. Wow. I've seen the archaeological finds of these gold chains. That means the ruler of the country. Verse 3. And he made him to ride in the second limousine that he had, chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bow the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. How come he got this position? How come he got this position? What did he have to do? He didn't do anything. It all is what goes on in the what? In the heart, in the soul, and the what? Mind. Well, didn't he watch any movies? Didn't he want to be like, I'm trying to think of someone. Brad Pitt? Didn't he want to be like, I can't think of any movie stars. I don't watch movies enough, I guess. I can't think of any. Give me some movie stars. Huh? Like Tom Cruise. Or who? I don't know. I don't watch television. I couldn't tell you. Sylvester Stallone, that tells you how long I've been watching television. I have no idea. Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. Wow. Verse 46. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. That's intense. By the way, did his mom and dad and brothers and sisters bow down to him? Yes. They didn't recognize him. They were starving. Why were they starving? Why were they perishing in the desert? And Joseph's living in the palace. Chapter 42, verse 6. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was he that sold all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Did they know that was their brother? No. They're starving. They're dying of starvation. So of all his brothers, who was the sharpest? Of all the people here, how many here are adjusting your thinking, your identity, and your reality to conform with God? Then you're going to see a difference in your life. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy. I got to get there first. Chapter 28. Here we go. This also applies to you. Chapter 8, verse 1. 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently to the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do his commandments, which I command thee this day. The commandments that are true, not the ones that people demanded. This is basically to agape God with all your heart, your soul, your mind. What the rest of the stuff is immaterial. Why? Because whatever is your reality, and it will become your identity, and what your identity is what you act and think. You think and then you act. So God wants the heart change first, then the soul, your identity, and then finally your thinking. It'll automatically fall in line. That the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. Sound like a good deal? Anyone for this one? Right. This is God's contract. Got a signature at the bottom. And all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Why does it say overtake thee? Because some people thought they could do God's word, and before the blessings came, they would run. And they would, mount up a whole bunch of blessings that they could take, cash in at the end. No. It ain't going to work. You can't run out. All right, I'm going to do this great thing for God, and I'm going to boogie so God can't reward me. Nope. It's coming to get you. The blessings are coming to get you, and you cannot run them. Is this like a good idea? Have these images. What kind of images should you have in your mind? These images. These are what God says is rightfully yours if you change and think like God thinks. So this is what God's thinking of you. Everybody ready? Think these thoughts. I'm a dumb Mexican. No! These thoughts here. Got it? Blessed shall thou be in the city, and blessed shall thou be in the field. Nowhere to run. And where you go. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy ground. In other words, it's going to prosper and increase. And God's going to give you revelation how to do it. Fruit of thy cattle, the fruit of thy kine, the fruit of thy flock, of thy sheep. I don't got any sheep. God's got you covered still. Blessed shall be the basket in thy store. Most of us don't have a store. God got you covered. Blessed shall be when thou comest in, and blessed shall be when thou goest out. All right, you got you covered either way. The Lord shall cause thy enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee what? The Lord shall command the blessings upon thee in thy storehouses. Most of us doesn't have a storehouse, which is sad. And all that thou settest thy hand unto. You've got to have things that you can put aside. 10% goes to God, 10% goes between a relationship between you and God, that God will increase. Every time you take out of it, you put back more than what you take out. You have to do that. You build that. That's a storehouse. Don't replenish it and more. That's what a storehouse is. All right. And all that thou sendest thy hand unto, he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. So you're going to wind up being landowners. You all didn't know that. Supposed to own land. But do it when God says to, not when the real estate agent says to. Where am I at? Verse what? 9. The Lord shall establish thee a holy people unto himself, as he has sworn unto thee. God swears. There you see. God swears. He says right there, he swears. I swear. God swears too. What does he swear? That you're going to prosper. That you're going to have an abundance. That you're going to be the one in charge. That everything that is beyond your comprehension. You've got to think of yourself greater than what you've been taught by the examples you've been given and what you think you are. Does that make sense? They will not conform to this. The Lord shall establish thee a holy people unto himself, as he has sworn unto thee. If thou wilt keep the commandment. Agape God with all your what? Heart. With all your what? Soul. And that precedes all other commandments. That's all that is. The laws are there for people who won't do that. And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be what? Afraid of thee. And I, the Lord, shall make thee plenteous in goods. Why? Because you'll know what to do with them. You know how to properly handle it. You won't be wasting it. And the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy cattle. Fruit of thy body means children. And the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of the ground, and the land which the Lord swore unto thy fathers to give thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to pour out the rain on the land in his season, and to bless all the work of thy hand. Thou shalt lend unto many, and thou shalt not what? We sure got that one backwards, don't we? Who's supposed to be the lender? And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. What comes out near the tail? Thou shalt be above only. What does it mean to be above only? And thou shalt not be beneath, if thou hearken unto the commandment of the Lord thy God, as I command thee this day. All right, so what happened to Joseph? He went from being thrown into slavery to being in charge. How many times? Repeatedly, over and over and over again. Why? Because he saw from whose perspective? Now, I want you to visualize yourself. What would it mean when you're in charge? What kind of business are you in? Now, for someone who's 13 or 12, it doesn't mean anything because they never have a business. They don't have to do anything. But for those right now who have to pay bills, it's a whole different story. Everybody wants more money. But you don't get more money unless you're more capable. You have to earn that. And God will make sure you earn it. What you should seek after is what? Knowledge, wisdom, and what? So how much should you have? To what level? Like Joseph? Let's go to Philippians. Was God Joseph's master? Yes. So, Philippians, we close. That's a lot of women's favorite subject is close. And in Philippians, that was a joke. Courtesy laughter. All right. All right, chapter 2, verse 5. You ready? Not only are you supposed to have your reality conform to God, you're supposed to have the what? Identity. God is your what? Father. You are God's what? Child. Now, so that covers the reality. That covers your identity. What's the next thing you got to have? Mind. Here we go. Chapter 2, verse 5. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. You let it. God wants you to have it. Let it happen. Show people what life is really all about. Walk with all the blessings of God. All the authority. All the power. Actually, it's up to who? It's up to you. Here's the book. God has sworn that is your destiny. What do you say is? You are God's what?
Yes.
God bless you.